All right, welcome back Under the Rug. And I managed to pull it off again. The great Harrison Thompson has returned, the man that is single-handedly responsible for me not finding my size shirts in the store, even though he weighed about 50 pounds more than me. The man is here, the gun show. You see, look at us. We wearing the same size shirt. He got at least 50 pounds on.
Medium. Just in the arms, though.
In the arms.
Yeah,
just them said who go in the gym, and all you can do is the arm machine.
Straight arms, bro. Like Monday is arm day, Tuesday is arm day.
Every day is arm day.
Every day, man.
Well, I try to get a little more balance. I trying to get in shape like y'all now.
But I gotta get balance myself, though. Like all over, though.
Balance is good.
All over.
Yeah, I gotta get in shape. I getting older, so I gotta get, I got my body in like it used to be.
Boy, I am creeping up on this reality. Like I am not as invincible as I used to be.
Yeah.
Like I could go to bed at like 2, 3 a.m. Wake up at 6, bright-eyed. I do that now, zombie.
And it'll sneak up on you. You'd be like, "What the hell happened?"
Can't handle it no more.
That's how it is. So I trying to fight that as much as I can. But Harrison Thompson is here. He is back. Appreciate you, my brother, for coming through again. Last time I watched the show we did last time,
right.
And I was like, "This was a damn good show."
I
had a great time. This was a good show.
That was solid though. That was with Chrissy, man. Yeah, we had a good time.
Had a great discussion last time, and you're the expert. So I decided to bring you in because Gail Hanna is here also. The great, the wonderful, light-skinned Rasta, Gail Hanna. Always insightful, always informed, and always opinionated. She is back. And we've been speaking to Erin Knowles, who's a teacher at a government school.
Yeah.
And we spoke to her for the past 2 weeks because a few weeks ago we had the incident where... One second, let me cut this off.
Yeah. Live TV.
I know, right? We had the incident where the 15-year-old was shot in the drive-by shooting. And, his father was saying, oh, he's in gang, and we knew something was going to happen. We tried to get him a different school. So we just started to have discussions about school gang violence and why these kids resort to violence.
Yeah, that's
and
serious
a
stuff.
lot of it went back to the homes that they came from, the dysfunctional families that they came from. Whether it be single-parent homes, whether it be no-parent and just Grammy homes, whether it be, just a bunch of dysfunction, and they didn't experience that love and affection that we should get when we are being nurtured and grown to be adults.
Well, that's it.
Right, and so I said, you know what, I got to try to get Harrison so that we could discuss why is it that families and relationships are continuing to fail and be so dysfunctional here in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Because I think it's at a height right now, and you could speak to that based on your experience. You could let us know. Give us the reasons. Give us some of the reasons why. Oh, let's start with the most common reason. When people come to you, what's the most common reason they have issues?
The common... that's such a hard question to answer because I see so much different commonalities in a lot of different aspects of relationships and just human life. But I think the foundation of a lot of them do start in the home, and we find that we don't really protect those family values that we used to protect. I know when I was growing up, I had to sit at the dinner table, even if it was McDonald's or just some chicken in the bag. Like, baby, we had to sit down at the table. It's only until I really started turning like maybe 16 that I started carrying my food into the room. And then I maybe wouldn't talk to my brother as much as I would, or my mother as much as I would. And it got to the point now when I was like in COB, and they wouldn't be seeing me until like 9 o'clock at night. And if they see me, they only see me for about maybe an hour before I hit in the road again to go hit one party or something, Right. And so I think it starts from there. And because we don't realize that those same very values in the home are critically important, we throw them out and we replace them with other things. We replace them with technology. We replace it with liquor, drugs, you name it. And that's where the downfall. These viruses on TV, man. Love and Hip Hop, Real Housewives of every single place. I waiting for them to come here though. Real Housewives of Nassau.
Why?
Wait, that would be legit.
My goodness, no, man. Don't give people... Shoot, I might even want to watch that. I can't stand them shows.
Listen, we love drama. We love drama.
Don't you have to own the house to be on the show?
Oh my goodness.
We could do it. We could do it in like one little Pinewood.
I think Gail trying to be Betty.
Apartment.
Gail trying to be Betty. What you trying to say, Gail? Bahamas don't own the house?
The bank won't nominate.
Yo. But go ahead. Sorry, Ozzy. Continue.
No, man. That was pretty much the surmising of it all. I think it all starts from the moralistic breakdown in the home. And you find that if we do our homework and if we really pay attention to the trends, everything points back to the home. In particular, the absent fathers, right? You know, mothers are definitely doing their part when it comes to raising their children. But let's be honest, folks. Women can't do what men can do, right? Or mothers can't do, what fathers can do.
Raising?
Well, paying the bills and trying as best as they can to instill some type of value in them. Because I will admit, you know, Bahamian mothers, they generally tend to be more sensitive to a lot of these plights. Men, we tend to minimalize the problems. You know, man, that's just a scrape.
Right.
That's just a breakup. Don't worry about that. But you will find that most men crave that structure from their fathers. And you find that most fathers, they're really just financial. They don't really provide a lot of that emotional support. And so as a result of that, men don't know how to connect with that emotion in themselves.
But have they been conditioned to be that way?
Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah.
I still find it hard to cry if I feel that urge to cry for something. And that's almost ingrained within me.
Yeah.
And I have to be conscious to say, you know what, let it out.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. That's why I always watch Undercover Boss by myself. Because look at every episode.
Waterworks though, right?
Every episode I gotta cry. And I want nobody see me.
Bro, like I'll be on YouTube watching when the soldiers come home. Like for the first time in like years. And I'm just like, whoa. That's emotionally pulling.
Yeah, when you see the families embrace them and all of that stuff. Yeah.
But you know it's bad when you're by yourself in your room, you know, wrap up in that cover, AC on high, YouTube and on screen, and you still struggle to embrace that emotion that you're feeling.
Yeah, but that's how we've been conditioned, unfortunately. You know, you're supposed to be hard, man. You ain't supposed to cry. You're supposed to be rough and tough. And I think we discussed that the last time we were here. But what I could do is, I could go down some reasons, I believe, a lot of relationships. Now, I have a philosophy, and I have this one thing in particular that I feel is responsible for a lot of the breakdown of relationship. But I could bring that one out later. But let's start with the obvious ones. Infidelity seems to be one of the biggest reasons for bust-ups in relationships in the Bahamas. It's so bad that it's become a norm now.
Right.
A sweetheart is a normal thing now. You got songs saying, you're bad, sweetheart, you cost me, get catch.
Right.
You know, we've embraced sweetheart as a culture.
True.
So what role and why are we so like sweetheart in this country? Why we can't stick to our one partner? What's going on with this nation?
What happens is we gotta recognize that cheating of any form is a conscious decision, right? Nobody just falls into the bed. No one happens to mistakenly pull down their boxes and your panties at the same time and I fall into your vagina as a man, right? That ain't gonna happen.
Right.
You made conscious decisions along the way. But a lot of what people try to justify or when they try to justify the reasons for infidelity, they always talk about the lack. They always say, you know what, I ain't getting this at home, or I'm not getting this from my spouse. Let me go there and find that. But the question you need to be asking is why? Because in relationships, we have equal responsibility for where this is.
I need you to say that again. Say that again? We have what?
In relationships, we have equal responsibility.
You sure?
Equal, bro.
So how come the woman less for a man has been so much longer than the man less for a woman?
Because we can't change these things that we deny. A lot of women in this country are anxious.
Hold on, Gail. You disagree with me, Gail?
Yes, very much so.
How so?
Oh, wow.
Tell me. Okay, what's your view on it?
I wanted to go back to actually when Harrison said that what brings on infidelity and stuff like that, and actually talk about this culture of getting married for show.
Go ahead. Gail, where you going?
Coffee break.
Again?
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I was just saying that people get married for it's called them the wrong reasons, but that's really what it is. When you have a culture encouraging people to get married for the sake of the church or for a baby or because your parents pressuring you been together 30 years.
Right.
Stuff like that. So starting at the point where the marriage shouldn't have happened in the first place.
I love that.
That's really where they wanted Harrison to go to.
Okay, well, talk about it, Harrison. Are we getting in relationships too soon, or like are we trying to force relationships that we probably shouldn't be in? Like, talk about it.
I think the issue is we don't recognize that to be in a relationship, you have to change your mindset from that of a single person to that of a committed person. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of that going around that we can connect with. You know, a lot of what we would say, or a lot of examples for people of committed relationships is like, our parents or maybe our grandparents. We don't see a lot of that in this particular generation. And so we feel that because that's so unattainable or unreachable, it's just something that falls by the wayside. You know what I'm saying?
But I think, let me ask this. Are we juicing too early? Are we having sex too quick? Are we leading our relationships with sex and then trying to make a relationship off of that? Build a relationship off of that sex?
Of course, man. In this Western world, right? The majority of relationships start off with sexual tension. They are very one-sided. You know, we don't really know nothing about one another, but all I know is like, yo, you got me hard and you got me wet right now. Let's link up. And then after we link up, we ask the important questions. Okay, so tell me about yourself. So who are you?
Is that a good way to do it?
No, man. It's very dysfunctional.
Okay.
And, you know, I find that if we, reluctantly enough, if we were able to contribute more energy and effort into the other aspects of relationships, like the friendship aspect, recognizing that there's also going to be an unconditional loving aspect, as well as a sexual aspect, you have to make sure that that relationship triangle is equilateral at all times.
But now, Harrison, now let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
When these girls them go put on these pom-pom shorts and thing and these tight up clothes, come on, man. When you see them out, the first thing you ain't gonna say, I wonder where she work. You know what I mean? You ain't saying, I wonder how much BGCSE she got. I wonder what her goals are in life. Right. You know what I mean? That ain't the first thing that come to your mind when you see them out and by the fry.
That's for a purpose, though, right? Okay. Because you find that what we call that eros love. That is supposed to... Now you gotta tell me
what that mean. I know what that mean.
Eros is just sexual tension. That's that attraction love. That's where all of that passion is, right?
Okay.
And so that eros love, the purpose of that is to get you in the door, right? Because I ain't gonna be attracted to your personality right off the bat.
Right.
I'm gonna be like, babe, that guy look good. Let me come and talk to her.
Right.
After that gets me in the door, you have to realize eros love can't keep you in the door. The only thing that can keep you inside of the relationship door is philia love, which is friendship. Once you nurture that friendship, you find that most successful relationships, they have that deep friendship component. Because there's going to be times when you don't feel attracted to that person. But because that's your friend, you ain't going to disrespect them.
Right.
And then you're going to find that there's times when you're not even friends with your spouse. But that unconditional love that a lot of us never get to isn't there to protect the relationship from a lot of vulnerabilities.
Gail, what are some of your biggest issues that you encountering? And because you're single right now, right? I mean, I won't put you on blast, but I mean, you ain't in a committed relationship at this time, right? Let's say you're dating.
Yeah, I'm married.
Oh, she married. She done jumped the broom.
Don't mind Gail. Gail don't want people jumping in her inbox. That's all.
I know that go, G. I got you.
But what has been, with your experience, what has been your biggest issues with men and past relationships? Why were they feeling? Was there some common thing that made your relationships fail in the past?
You mean besides me?
Hold on. There's a woman admitting
that she straight there.
Okay, well go ahead. Go ahead. Elaborate on that.
Way to go.
No, I mean a lot of what I know about relationships and what I've learned. Like you say, your parents are an example, right? For example, I grew up very religious, so the major part of that is you remain a virgin until you get married, and then God is going to provide a beautiful husband for you out of the clouds. And then you're going to be happily ever after married. And this is just wonderful. And you could serve him food and, have all that fun stuff going on. And then once that doesn't occur, now you're left in this space where you don't know how to date. Because in church, they don't encourage dating. They don't encourage you to interact with... See, that's the next thing. They don't encourage you to interact with people of the opposite sex. So now you kind of have a situation where, you wind up a top and then you pull the string and it just goes. If that initial formula doesn't come together, you just a top spinning on this ground trying to figure out exactly where you fit in this dating pool. So wow. I feel like especially with me, that moving that mindset from I'm about to have a God providing husband who's gonna take care of me and treat me wonderfully and all these other things, to now figuring out all of the misconceptions and beliefs that I had that led to what I do in relationships.
Right.
Like, that's a lot of work.
That's challenging.
Yeah, it is. And it's interesting that you said besides you, it's hard. How often do you encounter people that actually admit that they are either the problem or a big part of the problem?
Like 0.1%
Wow.
of people. I have to literally do a lot of work to pull this truth out because people have done such a good job of burying this truth into the other person. They don't realize the faults of their own. That's why I said it's equal responsibility, because it'll be very easy for me to point the finger, right? At the person who stepped out, or the person that lied, or the person that betrayed me. But it's going to be so much harder for me to recognize how I greased that wheel. I'm not going to see that the way I curse at this man every day or the way I talk to this woman every day is literally pushing them into the arms of someone else. And so you find that that's almost the precedent for that 80-20 rule, right? Where you're only going to get a certain amount of your needs or your desires met by that person. The other side, you're going to have to become content and recognize, hey, I can't get any more than this. And because we are so emotionally hungry, we never draw that line. We want our women to be solid. We want them to be Christian. We want them to be bad. I don't want them to curse.
Well, not me.
You know,
that ain't my list, but go ahead.
Generally speaking, though,
Right,
like, you know, we all got these kind of like strict criteria for other ones,
Right.
and that's because we refuse to recognize that as humans, we're all going to have some type of baggage. We're all going to have some faults, some flaws. There's never going to be any one perfect person like in the Disney movies. Stop listening to Disney and paying attention to Disney. That's they jack you up. Once we can become content, only then can we really experience true fulfilling relationships.
Well, on that note, do we go into relationships with unrealistic expectations?
Of course. Like a lot of times you will find you have an expectation of 8 to 10. And then when that person comes in at a 6, the space between 6 and 10 is called disappointment. And so what we have to do is we have to be real with where that person is, because if you can't accept that person at the beginning of the relationship, everything that you do won't be genuine. Remember, every disagreement at the core of it is non-acceptance. And so if you can't accept that person, you can't expect for them to grow.
But how long do we give for them to grow? You know what I mean?
Like 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
2 weeks, bro.
Well, damn.
I mean, you know, because we live in an instant society. We want it all now. We want to be dating and married in 1 year. All of that, whatever. But we don't recognize, like, this relationship game takes time. It's like a plant, right? You got to make sure the soil is right. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think a lot of people dating don't like each other. Like, I find like a lot of relationships, the people actually don't like each other. And so actually wanting to do that work, that initial, besides the sexual attraction, that desire to do the work in the relationship, you gotta like the person first.
That's interesting, you know.
So what you're saying, Gail, is they don't genuinely like each other, but what got them to that point, though? It had to be something.
Some other aspects. Like, he probably, let's say the woman fulfills a list. Like, I had an ex-boyfriend who made a list of what qualities his wife would have, right?
Okay.
And they were like perfect qualities. Like, oh, she's got to look like this, and I want her to do this, and I want to have this, and all these other things. And then the problem, I mean, I don't see a problem with that. The problem came in when he started to compare and started to, like, say, okay, you hit 7 out of 10 points on the list or something to that effect. And he dated women that met parts of the list, but then tried to basically make them feel bad about not meeting his whole list.
That's crazy, man.
Okay, where you find this nigga from?
I got stories.
That's the first time I hear. Now listen, and don't get me wrong, it's a good thing, and I think more of us should actually make lists.
Yeah.
And what I feel a list should comprise of is wants versus needs, and the needs are the things that, listen, these are things I absolutely have to have, or they ain't gonna wait.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
I like that. I think it needs to be underlined by value. Because we make our list too specific in terms of material things, right? I feel like if we incorporated more values into our lists, that person doesn't need to be 6 foot, or they don't need to be thick, or they don't need to be this size or this personality type, because they have the same value. And see, because we have these materialistic lists, we end up looking for people that are identical to us. But you don't want anybody who's exactly like yourself, because where's the harmony, right? How are you going to
contrast?
Right. How are you going to know when you need to grow or
Right.
pick yourself up or
Right.
do better?
Right.
You won't.
And that's why I see probably some quiet people as they junglers. But like I said, I think the list should be needs and wants, right?
Yeah.
And the wants are like this the extra toppings. Like if I get this, man, listen.
It's that little piece.
Yeah, this start
right there,
sprinkle on top, right? But if it isn't there,
Yeah.
you could still have a happy, functional relationship.
Of course.
And I think a big disconnect is what us men feel our needs are not necessarily needs to women. I don't think our wants and needs line up. Like I don't think they in sync. Is that
I think so, Greg.
Go ahead.
Let me tell you why I think so. Because at its core, the base of that list should be a value system of some sort, regardless of what type of value it is. And that person's value and that person's character at its base, you could build whatever you need to build off of that. But like you could add like the physical attributes and stuff like that. But I think generally we want the same values in relationships. I may be wrong, but I think that if we had a list of values,
let me ask.
Generally agree on
I
maybe 2 or 3 of those.
And I ain't gonna lie, in my personal experience, I have to disagree with you because the things that I felt were important needs weren't really high up on the woman's list. Like, let's say I would think, okay, if I taking care of you, paying the bills, doing all these things, you got roof, you got food, whatever you need, money, all that stuff. If I doing all that, I like, okay, well, I handling all the needs. But then she may come freak out, well, how come you didn't do this for me or take me to this place or this and that?
That's
and
fair.
that might be a need, that might be more important to her. And I'd be like, woman, all these other things I do, you can hit me for this? So in your experience, in your practice, do you agree that our wants and needs tend to be out of sync?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I will agree that we all generally want the same thing, but the expression and the way we go about seeking or fulfilling that thing is different. It's worlds apart, right? Like I always talk about women being emotionally intelligent, meaning they're oftentimes more aware of the emotionality of different situations more so than men would. And so you find that women tend to get quote unquote hung up. I'm not dissing you, but you find women tend to focus on these particular emotions that a man just simply wouldn't. Because a man is more linear. A man is able to detach himself from that. And so you find that, yes, sometimes it may seem like this woman is nagging you, but you have to understand that this is just who she is as a woman, right? You got to understand sometimes when this man isn't speaking, he's thinking. Because not every time he pulls away, he's just pulling away for pulling away's sake. Because men like to think in solidarity. And so if we don't understand those differences between man and woman, you see that there's a lot of room for misunderstandings.
Right.
But now the second part of that question is, or the answer to that question, we often confuse our desires for a relationship desire, or we often confuse our wants and needs for a relationship need. And so I'll give you an example. Let's say I want to spend time with my spouse. That seems like something for the relationship, right?
Right.
But we have to remember preferences are neither right or wrong. If I have a preference to go and watch football and you have a preference to go and do something around the house, that's your preference and this is my preference. But we have to recognize sometimes our preferences is to include the other person.
Right.
And so if that other person doesn't include you all the time, don't get offended. You have to remember that, hey, sometimes it's just my preference to do things with this person. Maybe because I don't like to do things alone. And we have to understand those differences.
Yeah.
Right?
That's where communication comes into play, because if you decide you're going to make it work, then that person needs to know, okay, I need you to come with me, or I need to do this by myself, or whatever the case may be, and explain to them exactly why you may feel that way.
Totally.
And then if they can't accept that, perhaps you should be together.
But I'm glad you bring that up, Gail. Let's talk about communication, because I think that's one of the major breakdowns in our relationships.
Yep.
Is we have a
No,
failure
definitely.
to effectively communicate. Because communication going on, but it ain't effective.
Boy, you so right.
We are not communicating effectively, and I could speak. I'd say me too. You know what I mean? We have trouble.
We all do it.
Relating to each other and getting our message across the way we want to. So let's speak about communication and the role it plays in relationships.
Okay, well, let's set the foundation. There's a difference between communicating and talking, right? I could talk to my dog. I could talk to a wall. I could talk to the TV screen where the Cowboys are down by a couple of points, right? Cowboys fan. But communicating is
You like bad treatment. Go ahead. At least it ain't Dolphins.
Well, hey, be blessed.
Yeah, you ain't like too bad treatment.
Be blessed.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, you find communicating is very different. Communicating is actively recognizing that intimacy is what's important here. Okay. And it's the transmission of honest feelings, honest opinions about what it is we're going through. And so you find one of the biggest obstacles to effective communication is emotions. When we get emotional, whether that's angry or sad or even sometimes too happy, communication degenerates almost into this tool of control. And so instead of me communicating to you why I'm angry, I respond from that anger and say, you need to stop doing this. So I'll use a broad example here. Let's say I walk into my house when I leave my shoes at the door, right? My wife would say to me, Harrison, move your shoes into the room, please. I'm going to look at her and say, why is such a big deal?
Right.
Like, why are you talking to me like that?
Right.
And what we don't recognize in that small moment is I have to be given the awareness of why this is important to you, even though you think it's obvious, right? Because if you don't do that, we aren't going to have purposeful communication. Instead, we're going to be reacting to one another instead of responding to one another. And that's how you find it all starts.
Well, look, yeah, I agree with that. 100. Do you agree, Gail?
Yeah, I agree. And we've talked about things like beating your children and stuff like that before, where children don't learn how to express themselves or effectively communicate, especially when there's conflict. And in relationships, we could look at the high numbers of domestic abuse and violence and so on. But even in our small relationships, we don't even look at the unkind word or the slap or, you know, something that may seem, okay, they didn't beat the shit out of me, but I'm still, you know, I'm bruised or whatever. Or I just got punched. I hear people talk about getting punched, getting dragged, slap in their relationships and stuff like that. And it's accepted behavior. So I just feel as though in terms of learning to communicate and also passive aggression.
Oh man, listen, we
right?
need to talk about that. Cause
there's a lot of passive
That's so deep, bro.
Man, most
in our
people
society and yes,
passive aggression is
been a perpetrator of it in my own relationships.
Look here,
and I really had to see how that was affecting me.
But you know what? Passive aggression is a direct result of poor communication. You not being able to communicate how you feel.
Right.
So you fall into these acts of passive aggressiveness, right? You do these things because you can't effectively say to this person, well, listen, this is how this makes me feel, and this is what I feel about this situation. So you do these little passive aggressive things.
It starts with the ineffective communication, but then you find it's the component of expression that really exacerbates that passive aggressive behavior. And so let's call passive aggressive behavior the tendency to give someone your feelings without them really knowing. And it's done like that for a reason, because when you try to call out passive aggressive behavior, it makes you look crazy instead of the person. And so let's say I'm angry at Greg, right? Instead of me telling Greg that I'm angry at him, I am going to set up some kind of situation that's purposefully going to derail Greg. And so when Greg says, "Hey Harrison, I don't know what's going on," I'm going to say, "Greg, what you mean you don't know what's going on?" And so all of a sudden now, Greg starts to go into this tissy fit of not knowing, boy, am I really freaking out or is this just bad luck? And then the passive aggressive behavior becomes extra toxic because it poisons from the inside out. And so it deepens that divide for purposeful communication. The more you do passive aggressive behavior, the more likely you are to have to fight that in the future. So don't give it life. Like suffocate that stuff though. Recognize it early on. And if you are in a relationship with someone who is passive aggressive, call them out. call them out on that behavior, let them know that you're onto that, and set rules moving forward. Bahamians like to run up tape too much. Every time a situation comes up, you want to have the same discussion about why are you like this. No, have that discussion maybe 2 times, and afterwards, act. You know what's going to happen now if you start doing that. I'm going to leave. So when you see me leave, you know why. That sends a much more powerful message than running up tape.
Interesting.
Yep, true.
But I think that example you gave, I think that's a professional passive-aggressive person. Because that's that overt, that's that you ain't even know what I do. Passive aggression. What about that blatant, obvious passive-aggressive behavior? Because that's what I encounter.
Okay.
I encounter blatantly obvious passive-aggressive behavior on a regular basis.
Hit me with an example. Give me a broad one.
Let me see.
I will get you in trouble.
I have an example.
I try not to see which example I can
you gotta
put.
sleep, Greg.
Huh?
We need cookies tomorrow.
No, but I try not. Boy, look here. Let me get back to you on that one. I gotta think.
I have one.
Go ahead, Gail.
Okay.
Let me think while you go. Say yours.
So wife asks husband, she cooked dinner and everything, served and blah, 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 and asked her husband to wash her dishes. So he says, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. It was important for it to happen. To the wife, it was important for it to happen at that point, that evening. And it wasn't important to the husband. So the wife washed the dishes and then went back to wherever the husband was. Let's say he was watching TV or something, and sat on the side, got on the phone, talking to TV, random places, short answer, etc. And then the husband sees that the dishes have been washed. Fast forward to the next day, the husband asks the wife to prepare lunch, and she says, I'll prepare lunch for you tomorrow.
Okay. I get it.
Well, let me see. I can be general.
Yeah, man.
It'll be let's just say it's a lot of comments made. Like she said, if you were asked to do something, and a comment will come, knowing I ain't do it, but you're going to make a comment
to point that out.
Going to, point it out and remind me that I know you ain't do it. You know what I mean? And I ain't going to come right out and say it, but it can be a petty, shady, you know what I mean?
And we call that professionally insulting someone, right? Because, again, if you try to call that behavior out, the person's like, but I didn't talk to you in that tone of voice. Why are you responding to me like that? And so you got different levels of passive-aggressive behavior. You got under-responding.
Which one is that?
Under-responding is like,
short answer.
Hey, can you bring me some food? Okay. You doing okay today? Yeah.
Gotcha. The short answer.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Another type of passive-aggressive behavior is active ignoring. You hear when that person calls your name, Harrison, come here. You don't get nothing from me. Harrison, come here again. It's usually with parents.
There's a lot of examples.
Exactly. That's how I feel, babe.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it is. And so what happens is they come up into the room now and say, you ain't hear me calling you? Oh, no, I didn't hear you. You heard them the whole time.
And they know that.
And they know that.
Yes.
But to call that out will make you look crazy because there's that slight possibility that maybe they didn't. And it's that little possibility here that the passive-aggressive person cherishes. Because that's what allows them to cloak their anger. That's what allows them to cloak that negative, toxic behavior. You see?
Well, let's go into another aspect. Pressure. Pressure on both sides.
Pressure.
Because, women are pressured. Listen, you got to find a man, and you got to find a man by this age. You got to have this amount of children by this age. Like societal pressures force them to, in a lot of cases, probably marry people that they probably shouldn't have because they feel like, listen, I need to get married for society. Or the man
it's time.
Who knows he, don't want to really get married right now. But again, societal pressure, boy, you done had a baby with the girl. You done been with the girl this long. You better go marry that.
Show that ring on the
thing. So let's talk about pressure. What role does pressure play in a lot of relationships or couples you may encounter?
I find pressure generally tends to cause people in relationships to make premature moves, right? Because a lot of times we may not feel ready, but you got family speaking into one ear. You got your boys speaking into the next ear and your friends speaking into the next ear. And then when you go to church, it feel like the pastor got that message just for you to say, this is your time. You got to make this move now. And so because you ain't know where you at, you looking at that pastor like, my God, this for me. This for me. And then you go jump there on Monday.
My message.
Make that stupid decision to go jump into that prematurely.
Right.
And then you wondering, God, why me? I do everything right. I save myself. And how come these bad gals getting married before me?
Sorry, that one that's touching the nerve right there. Go ahead.
And so, if we aren't able to clearly recognize and understand what it is we want, if we aren't clearly able to recognize where we are, we shouldn't be making any moves. Don't worry about taking extra time out of your life to make sure something is right. Right? Take that extra year to date. Take that extra year to save money if that's where you really are. Don't listen to everybody that loves you. And I say that particularly because when people love you, they're not often able to be critical with you.
Or objective.
Or objective, right? And so oftentimes the people that love you may give you the worst advice.
You're right.
And so sometimes you may need that, shameless plug, third perspective in the form of a therapist and relationship consultant.
Yes. And tell them where they can reach you while you're on that.
Well, since we're here,
yes,
you can reach me at Relationship Management 356-7983 or 4. It's an actual place you can come in. A lot of people see my videos online.
Yeah.
They don't realize I have an office.
Right.
Right? It's private. We have professional people. We serve you. We treat you like kings and queens when you come because you're a human.
And let me tell you how private and confidential it is, right? They must have their building line with lead like Lex Luthor and Superman because they can't even get good service in this building. How
it's
tight
so
this
bad.
is. So they protecting your privacy. It's legit.
We are on this like 360. You ain't coming in there distracted about, oh, this my baby mother now blowing up my phone when it's
when you
she
go
can't
layer,
get you.
No, she can't reach you.
Right, this ain't no blue tick, double tick vibe where I see you send them, you read the message.
Yes. You hit the door, no
Can't even
service.
No service.
No service.
You straight.
Yes. So go ahead.
Right.
Yeah. So they need therapy, need a therapist.
Yeah, man.
To help give them that objectivity that they lack.
Right, and it's not religious tyranny. A lot of times you go to a pastor or someone who is very, very religious, they give you this tyrannical form of what I call therapy, which doesn't address the human side of a person. Right? And you find that effective therapy does that. It addresses the individual first before it addresses the relationship, which is why a lot of times I break my couples up into individual sessions to make sure that they're not bringing in any baggage from their previous relationships or their families before we can get to this point of being effective as a couple. And if you can't make it past those particular assessments, I can't tell you got the green light. Now, I'm forcing you, but that's my professional advice. Sometimes people still go ahead, but it's going to be about damage control in the next 3 years.
Tell me something. Have you ever encountered, and I'm sure it probably has happened, like couples where you like, this ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
And how do you tell them, listen, I ain't gonna lie, right? Y'all need to break up.
So basically what I do is I say, y'all need to break up.
Like just like that.
Cool.
Straight up.
Obviously depending on the kind of people I'm dealing with, I either have to use a lot of sugar to sweeten up that Kool-Aid, or I ain't gotta put no sugar in it. But when you come to me, you will get the truth. Because I am not into sugarcoating things. I am into recognizing how you best receive the truth. Because people receive the truth differently. But that change doesn't mean it's not the truth. And so if we can't accept those things or recognize we can't change things we deny, we can never really change for the better. And so my goal is to shatter the facade, to shatter those fake dreams and show you, no, this is what you are dealing with. If you want it to work, this is what you got to do. If you're not willing to do this, I can't tell you this is going to work.
To see, a lot of people probably think you go to therapy and it's with the sole purpose of making the relationship work.
No, can't.
So is it more of an analysis of where you are? And then we can decide, okay, based on what you have told me,
right?
I think y'all need to do this for this to work. And
Right.
if y'all can't do these things, cheap y'all don't waste each other time no more.
I will say, based off of Timothy doesn't do a good enough job of being accountable to himself. And so therefore you're going to recognize it's going to be easy to cover your problems as relationship problems. We got to get over this first, Timmy, before we can ever begin addressing Sarah. You see, and I find that, Sarah, you harbor too much on your on this anxious scale. And so you're spending too much time on things that aren't necessary. And you're pushing your mind away. If you don't recognize your tendency to do this, we can't work on this relationship yet. Only when you meet those milestones can I say, all right, guys, we ready. Let's move it on to the next level.
Well, let me get into this topic. Gail, I want you to touch on this one too. Let's talk about receiving bad advice from friends in worse or just as bad a situation as you.
Wow.
How often
Yeah.
do you encounter people that just get around their friends and, hey, girl, he's so no good, you blah, blah, blah. And they just come with all this negativity. Mind you, they in a terrible relationship themselves.
Right.
So how much weight should someone put in advice coming from these sets of people?
This again is why you got to be so careful of your friends and family, man, because we don't realize that we're giving advice from a place of fear and hurt 9 times out of 10, right? And so because I was hurting this way, I'm going to pass that same anxiety on to you. So, child, my man cheat on me. So listen here, if I was you, I wouldn't take no chances. He cheating, you know? Let me tell you what to do. And why would you give that person that kind of advice? Because that's your hurt. And because you weren't able to deal with your own hurt, you pass it on to the next person. And so you find everybody is playing catch and frisbee with pain. And so we connect with this dysfunction. We make this dysfunction normalized and we elevate it to a cultural status. And so we no longer recognize that dysfunction as a problem. And this is what's going on in our societies. You know, the worst piece of advice I've ever heard a young guy tell me was, by Harrison, you know, when I was down and out, man, I gone with my boy and he was telling me I need to grind on her, babe. He say
Wow.
grind with next gal and that could really deal with all of your emotions. And so, boy, I start juicing this one and this one, boy, and it did work.
Oh, and he said work?
He said it worked for that moment. But then when I came back to the same issue again, it's like, boy, I had to go and cheat. And so we developed this process of dealing with his issues by cheating.
Oh, my goodness.
Right? And so these are the kind of situations that we're dealing with in this country.
Yeah.
But we have to really, really be very selective and careful with whom we share our problems with. Because everybody doesn't have that wisdom
Right.
to look at that according to how you need the help.
Right.
Not how I would need the help.
Gail, bad advice. How much times do you encounter? How much conversations were you in with your girlfriends where they just come in with this advice? Gail, don't do that. Don't fool with him, yeah? Tell us about it.
Boy, it's rough. It's just a couple things, right? Number one, I try not to give people advice unless I ask them up front, do you want advice or do you want to vent? That's number one.
That's important.
Because
Yeah,
a
you
lot
smart.
of people don't want advice.
You right.
And then
You
secondly, a lot of people be looking for advice to support whatever it is they've already been thinking. So they just kind of looking for like acknowledgement or
Reassurance.
confirmation of that or something.
Yes.
And I can't do that for you. I am so sorry. I will have to tell you the truth. And then thirdly, like, you're not supposed to tell people the bad things in your relationship because
hold on,
then
Gail,
they're
hold
going to
on.
just
Revoice
harp
back.
on
Voice
those
back.
things.
I need you to say that again. I need you to say that again, please.
Yeah, a lot of women and men, but I only know, well, that's not true. Anyway, generally, if you have a bad experience in your relationship, it's like you could affect so much by going and venting to everybody but the person that you're in the relationship with. And then when you get over it,
My tambourine.
your
My
family
Lord.
and your friends and all these other people can't get over it. They'll be like, oh, well, ain't he just say he do this and this
And
and that
they
and
talking
that,
bad
and
about
then-
you because you already
Right,
paint
and
this
she going
person.
back.
Yeah, you paint this
So-
person to be this terrible person because you act in that anger and that frustration in that moment, right?
Bro.
So you remember all the bad things.
Only the bad.
All the bad things.
Yeah.
And that's what you tell the people. So when, like you say, and you omit all of the good things.
Right.
Only you know about these things.
Right.
You ain't tell them. So when you go back to this person because you think about it, you realize, he still does do a lot of good, right?
I'm telling you.
Then the people you vent to, like, what is girl stupid, eh?
That's the
Yeah.
Why is she
problem.
with this boy if she just, tell me all these bad things about him? So that's very important, Gail. Like, glad you say that.
That's deep. Because
Also, I don't. Sorry, go ahead, Harrison.
no man, you can finish.
No, I was gonna say I also have I do a disclaimer now because one time I tell my friend her boyfriend was cheating on her, and then she stopped talking to me. So since then,
Scary
I was
truth.
like, "This ain't my vibe." You understand what I mean? Like, if people come and ask me things, I'll put a disclaimer like, I mean, I think this and this and this, but, you know, whatever you want to do, like, just make sure I don't involve myself too much because it could really backfire on you.
Yeah. Good, Harrison. You want to talk about that one?
Yeah, well, like, it goes back to, again, being very selective with talking to friends and family, because remember now, in the relationship, your family is going to love you. Right? They don't necessarily love the person you're with. They're tolerating them because you've selected them. But if you expose those people you care about, whether it's family, whether it's friends, or your coworkers, they can't help or fight their human nature, which is going to naturally gravitate towards the negative to say, listen here, this person is terrible. You see what they're doing to you right now, and if that's who you're constantly going to, it's going to reinforce this narrative that, hold on, I shouldn't be trying to fix this. I should be trying to see how I could break up. And so because we are so problem-oriented instead of solution-oriented, a lot of us are trying to find the perfect person instead of creating the perfect situation. Right? And because we're doing that, we're being burned out. We're losing our enthusiasm to actually go and date. We're losing our hope, thinking that we're never going to find the right person because we're problem-oriented.
And you know what? I think I find a good solution for this, right?
All right.
When you out with the girls and you all venting, talking bad about man, right? And you talking about your man, you only telling them the bad things, right? Ask, or why don't you ask yourself, would I switch men with these girls?
Some of them might say,
would I give them my man?
Bro, you divide them by 0. Like, yo, you about to...
You know what I mean? Like honestly, because like I say, you mad in that moment, right? So you only telling the bad things. But think about it.
But
would I switch man with this person that I talking to right now?
On the other side of that, right?
Wow, what a sense.
Nobody has more problems with their wife or their girlfriend than a man talking to a new gal. So even though the narrative might be different between men and women, where women go into a group of women, a guy was not gonna, I don't know, guys, like, you have to be really, really boys in order to talk about relationship experiences as a man, like what's actually going on.
Don't ever do that with man.
So guys will be quicker to talk to a female or a woman about what's happening in the relationship and the negative things, the same way a woman will go to a group of women and do the same things. So both parties are guilty of it.
I have to be so very careful of that in my therapy because, you know, I got to recognize this person is coloring the story based off of how they're seeing it. And if I only listen to one person, I'll swear this other person is the devil. Until I talk to the devil and I realize, hold on, the devil is the angel. You is the devil. And so I bring it back now and I say, tell him, Harrison, tell him, Harrison. Hold on. The first problem is you doing da-da-da-da-da-da. And so, you know, jumping back to how Gail just said, you know, what was it that you said, Gail? A woman will never know the kind of problems, or a man will never kind of recognize the problems he's having with his woman until he's talking to a new woman?
Yeah. Not recognize, but I would say express. So y'all pairs.
Right. And you find that we men, or people in general, we use it as the rebound to kind of validate what it is we're going through. But we often know what the truth is because you can't lie unless you understand the truth. You know, and so you got to recognize, yeah, sometimes I got this issue, but I can't address that right now. And so because I can't, well, that's where the relationship is.
Well, let me give out the number before we before I go into my what I feel is responsible for a lot of dysfunction in relationships. 804-5219. You could call us. Now listen, don't be scared. You better call now if you got something, if you want some advice, if you got a question. This man does charge plenty. You get it for free. You better call and ask now. Don't say I never do nothing for you. This is your early Christmas present. 804-5219. Call and get your question in. Now, here's my thing. This is my theory.
Okay.
I feel the downfall of a lot of relationships is when entitlement creeps in.
Okay.
Like, why do you think relationships so sweet in the beginning, right? It's because we doing things for people because we want to do it. You know what I mean?
No, that's not why we doing them.
Yeah.
But as we continue to do these things and they now become expectations and entitlements, it now becomes like a job.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you have a passion, something you do just because you like to do, that if it actually becomes your job, you will tend to hate it.
Yeah.
I think that's what happens in a lot of relationships. Is that we tend to let entitlement on both sides, men and women. We tend to let entitlement creep in, and we come to expect this person to do this thing like this is their duty when they don't really owe you anything.
Right.
They're not obligated to do anything for you. Everything they do for you is a favor, and out of the kindness of their heart is a good deed because they like you or love you, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And when that becomes a job, I think a lot of people start to back off of those things and not tend to want to do it because now you make my passion or my hobby
It's a
job.
task, right?
You know what I mean? It's like a task, and you have demands, and you being salty about it and angry and rowing me about it. Like, how do you feel about that position when it comes to entitlement in relationships?
No, I think you're spot on when you say that, because you really shouldn't be getting involved in a relationship ideally if you aren't a whole person. Because when you're a whole person, you make the choice of sharing in your love, of sharing in your happiness with someone else. But if you don't already have that within yourself, you're going to begin developing these kind of expectations for the other person because they're literally filling a void in your life that you should kind of be filling yourself.
Boy, listen.
You see what I'm saying?
Say that again.
Bro.
I don't think a lot of people...
Greg.
What up again? Go ahead.
TD Jakes has a quote, right?
Uh-huh.
He said, dating writes a check that marriage can't cash. And a lot of things that we do in dating, it's not because of the goodness of our hearts or whatever. We feel as though we do this. We have like a playbook. And if you execute A, B, C, and D, the person will love you forever and want to be in a relationship with you and da-da-da-da-da. And I find like initially a lot of men and women do certain things that they feel execute the playbook of getting into a relationship. And then the sense of entitlement comes out of the resentment that you started this thing and you're unable or unwilling to continue it because you've already reached your goal, which was to get with the person. So
Or to get in
a
the
lot
draws.
of
Or to get in the draws.
I
I don't
get in the draws 101.
Yeah,
So
I don't
take
disagree
her
with you.
out,
I don't disagree with you on that
and I'm
point.
gonna da 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 and da da da, and then all of a sudden when it stops, the goal is already being reached. So
That's true.
now you're angry.
That's real true.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. I completely agree. Because like it's never gonna be. We like to generalize and think that it's just one blanket, solution or problem or this or that.
Yeah.
Every relationship is different. Now there may be a lot of similarities, but every situation is different. So there are many cases where that is indeed the case, and I feel there are cases where the person does genuinely in the beginning. I really like this person. I know this will make them feel good. This will make them happy. I know she enjoy this or he enjoy this, so I can just do this because what I mean. That's good points.
What's your goal with it? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And then when that then becomes an expectation or a job, it's like, hold on now.
Because you got to stop taking this person for granted, right? A lot of times in relationships, we allow ourselves to fall into that level of expectation and comfort because we feel like tomorrow is always going to be like it was today. And so if I don't realize, hold on, this person is their own individual. Sometimes they don't want to hang out with me. Sometimes they want to go to the gym, or sometimes they want to go to this club or do this thing on Saturday with their friends. Why should I feel some type of way about that? Why should I feel as though, this is a task instead of something that we both are willing to engage in?
Because you feel entitled to this person's time. You see? Okay. You feel like you own their time. You own their being. You should be first in everything. You know what I mean?
Doesn't that go back to their beliefs about relationships?
Say again, Gail.
Doesn't that go back to their personal beliefs about what a relationship looks like as well?
Yeah. There's foundations in that. We got to make sure identify, what do you think a relationship should look like? Because again, like I said earlier in the show, it's very easy for us to camouflage a personal desire as a relationship desire. Because while you're saying, this is good for the relationship, we should do this for the relationship. No, slow your roll. That's what you want. This isn't what I want. And because we can't agree on that, this can't be a relationship goal. And we got to make sure that whenever we're talking about the future of our relationship, that we both understand and agree on whatever the concessions are. And recognize that if you decide to go with that, free yourself from any resentment that may come from that. If you decide to say, you know what, let's just go with you, recognize that that's a choice you made, and don't hold that against the person. Don't throw that back into their face saying, oh, well, you did this the first year, so I feel like I could do this now.
Right.
That ain't cool.
No, not at all. Not at all. I see some people disagreeing with what I say. Listen, y'all could call, ain't nothing.
They disagreeing with you, bro?
Ain't nothing I like more than people that disagree with me.
Yeah.
Gail can tell you, I love it. I love disagreements. Please call 804-5219. Tell me exactly why you disagree. Listen, you ain't got to agree with me,
Hey.
I wanted to ask about finances also, because I think
yes.
financial situations
That's major.
affect relationships here in the Bahamas as well. I don't know if you could speak on that.
Yeah, man. There's really two ways you can kind of look at that in terms of, are we going to make this thing a shared thing? Are we going to agree to have our own separate kind of things and maybe come together on one particular account or for particular bills, right? Because a lot of people generally aren't good with money. And because they aren't good with money, you got to have some really serious conversations about how we're going to move forward in this relationship. Because, love is good, but love ain't going to pay them bills. Love ain't going to, put gas in the car or carry you on that trip that you may want to go on.
Love ain't going to pay for your grocery and super value.
No.
Ain't gonna wait.
And so you find that we generally tend to classify money right where our ego is. And we protect it sometimes to our own detriment, or the fact that we can't see beyond our ignorance. We protect that ignorance, And so this is my money. I always been doing this. How you could tell me what to do with my money? But if you are in this relationship and you care about me, you have to begin finding ways to begin to talk about that kind of stuff, right? Because if you can't talk about these things, it's going to show up in really, really bad ways. Like you're going to get ousted. Someone can find some receipts when the light gets turned off, or you look at that cable bill and you realize, yo, what's going on here? That's when the problems are going to happen. And if the only time you recognize a problem is at the moment it's exposed, y'all ain't communicating.
And that goes back to communication, because a lot of people, I don't want to say scared. I can't come up with the right adjective at this point, but they don't want to. It's hard to discuss finances and money. For some reason, it seems to be a difficult topic to discuss. You know what I mean?
On both ends, because let's say you super rich, you scared to talk about being super rich, because how do I know you're not going to use me for my money? But then let's go to the broke side. If you know you ain't got no money, oh boy, how do I know they're not going to leave me when they realize, but I ain't got no money? And so we have to begin recognizing, right, that I believe our way of making money is deeply tied to our purpose in life. And whatever that purpose is, it will make room for you. And so if we aren't trying to do that together in the relationship, there's going to be a lot of disharmony. Because you're going to find out this person's very secretive with, what it is they spend their money on. Or they told you, hey, I had $30,000 in the bank account, but you check it out and y'all can't even qualify for a $15,000 loan or something. Those are issues, and it goes to some deeper issues of communication, just like you said.
How often do you encounter financial issues when finances being the reason for them coming to you? Like, how often is that the case?
Actually, not. If I had to rank it, I would put that at probably number 4. It changes between rank 3 and 4.
Oh, okay, interesting. Because a lot of people feel that that's number 1 or 2.
Yeah, I
think
I understand.
they think it
So what's
alternates
their
with
top
infidelity.
4?
Say again, Gail?
What is their top 4? Harrison.
Good question.
You mean of why people come to me?
Yeah, the reason
Yeah,
for
let's
these
say, or
issues.
top 5, let's say.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Number 1, infidelity, right? Obviously, we can't get around that infidelity. The second one is betrayal. Feeling like this person stepped out on me emotionally, or they're talking to someone else, or I just don't like how they feel, or this move or this look that I'm getting from you at this particular juncture. They feel betrayed. We don't talk as much anymore. They hold a lot of resentment. The third one that that changes with money is family issues.
What kind of family issues? What are the most common family issues? Let's talk about that.
Man.
Another one would hit close to home. Yeah. Listen, Gail.
Bro, we got...
Catch the spirit.
Your mother-in-law.
She had that little twitch. She had the spirit.
She catch the spirit just now.
You gotta keep paying this one bill and that one bill.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Right. With family, you find sometimes there's the problem of being too close, where family shares too much information, where it's all about family all the time. I go with my uncle on Friday. I go with my auntie on Saturday. On Sunday is Cousin's Day, but I love my family. We don't see a problem
and family
with that.
and your business.
Right. But then when this spouse starts to get into the picture now, she may feel a different type of way about that. Right. And so you find there's also an issue now with families that are too distant. I feel like you don't want me to meet your mother. I feel like you don't want me to meet your father or your brother. Because deep down inside, you may fear that, boy, this person is really dysfunctional. I want to expose you to that. Because when you get involved with me, you getting involved with my crazy brother or my crazy sister, you know?
Right.
And so family, man, sometimes that can even shoot up to number 1 on my list.
Wow.
You know, because even when you have an expectation for your son or daughter, you want them to bring home a certain caliber of person. How can you say to your mommy, man, I meet this really decent Christian man, you know, he's doing music for free by the Red Cross, but you know, that's what it is for right now. She can say, ooh, sweetie,
I know, but that
you know, this the Thompson family, you know, we got a certain lifestyle now.
You want to talk about Hannah Easty time?
And so it's kind of like, who do I please? Do I please my parents? Do I please myself? Family can really put you in some funny predicaments. And you got to really recognize what is for you, because family will define it for you if you don't stand firm, you know?
Listen. Gail, I want to know why you got the Holy Spirit when he's talking about family just now. You have a personal experience you want to tell us about?
Well, yeah, that too. But I was thinking about a story I heard where the lady in the relationship was like lending her car, the car that her husband or boyfriend had got her, lending it out to family members. The family break up the car. When they're in the relationship, it's even down to let's say you're having a wedding and the mother-in-law has too much say, or you know, like family situations where your family has too much say in your relationship.
Yep.
Especially when you allow them to. And I think that a lot of people don't set boundaries with their own families in terms of what you're permitted, or how far you're permitted into the relationship. Because a lot of people allow family members to blatantly disrespect their spouse or their significant other in various ways. And that can also tear the relationship apart as well.
Very easily.
Yeah, I agree. I want to pitch something before we go, right? Because we can wrap up in a minute. I have a idea.
All right, let's hear this.
Now, I feel as though, and I don't think we did this on the last show, but I feel as though I think maybe my cousin, I first heard my cousin say this, and I was like, you know, that makes sense, you know. But a lot of people can disagree with me.
Okay.
A lot of people can disagree. But marriage, I think we should explore having marriage like how we do sports contracts, right? You have contracted marriages, and the couple sets the terms where they could say, okay, all right, I like how this, you know, everything good right now. You know, it may be, let's see how it goes for the next 2-3 years. Let's and
then readdress.
Let's do a 3-year marriage deal, over. Maybe with an option to opt into another 3 years afterwards. You know what I mean? Because let's be honest, right? It's hard to get divorced.
Yeah.
And we still have a high divorce rate. A lot of people are getting divorced.
Right.
A lot of people getting separated. And these divorce procedures are causing a lot of stress on a lot of people. So I feel if we had if the couple, because I think marriage is a personal thing. That shouldn't be the government, you know, telling you what the terms of your marriage.
Right.
You two should be able to come up with the terms for your marriage and sign on the dotted line and then abide by the contract you guys signed.
Okay.
So if y'all say we could do let's do a 5-year marriage, you know, if things good. And I think that would keep people on their toes too, because let's be honest, we have a tendency to get comfortable once we feel that we done got this person.
True.
And so like Gail said earlier, I mean, you do these things in the beginning to get into a relationship, to get what you want out of a relationship. And once you feel you got it, you're like, okay, I don't have to do these things no more. I can relax.
But you hear that? I think that's the sign of people typing angrily. Just about to disagree with what you're saying, bro.
But let's think about it. Look at what you watch sports. When the players have their best year.
Yeah.
Contract year. Because
they got money there.
Listen, I need this new deal. I need to do what I can do to get this new contract. Okay. So I think it'll keep people on their toes. It'll keep it fresh. And plus, it'll get rid of all the agony, all the depression, all of the back and forth with the courts and this rigid divorce, you know, process that we have. I think it'll help a lot of people in that regard too. Or, like I'm saying, you can't do the lifetime. If you all think that we can do lifetime, do the lifetime. Go ahead.
Get a LeBron James lifetime contract.
Yeah, go ahead and get the LeBron lifetime contract. But I want it to be an option that we can say, oh Lord, let's see.
The lines are ringing.
Someone call on that note. You see what it takes to get people to call? Well, that's sick. Hold on, I ain't answer it. Okay, let's see. Or should they hang up? You see what it take to get people to call?
Bro.
You got to ruffle their feathers. But what you think about that? You ain't got to agree with me, but it's just something I throw out there because I thought about it and I think about it logically, not emotionally, like, oh, this is my soulmate and we are going to be together and do this for a lifetime. I think it logically.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I hear you. I think we should shift that expectation down because to me it sounds like you're talking about dating. Dating is that microcosm of marriage. Let's see how this relationship looks in 2 years. And then let's assess it again and let's see how it looks in 5 years. And if we're comfortable, we'll take it to that lifetime.
Yes. Good afternoon, caller. Welcome on the rug.
Good night, first time caller. My name is Shaniqua Johnson.
Hey!
I don't
Hello,
stop lying.
Shaniqua.
I'm lying.
Thank you for calling.
Yes, Lakitra.
I called, but I guess you didn't catch me before I went to voicemail. I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
How important after you have kids and you're already settled in your relationship is date night to Harrison and I guess Gail? Well, I guess everybody can contribute. And my second question is before the people finish attacking Greg in the comments on Facebook, do you in any way, shape, or form agree with what Greg said about marriages being renewed like a driver's license, Harrison?
Thank you so much, caller. Let's
All right, I'll hang up and listen.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for calling, man. I just want to make sure you heard the first piece. It was about date night.
Yeah, like, how important do you think date nights are, stuff like that?
Oh, it's critical. I ain't stopped dating my wife yet. From November 2008 up until right now, November again, we still date. We usually choose Thursdays, but I find if you don't nurture that, it's going to be so very easy for life to take precedence because there's always going to be work you can do. There's always extra appointments you can take, more money you can make. You will always be tired. I am realizing that now. I will always be tired unless I make that effort to not be tired or ready my mind for that date.
Is it on one person to do the date nights, though?
No, I think it should be reciprocal.
Because I think the expectation is the man's supposed to be the one. The man always have to be the one initiating and creating and setting up and doing these things when it comes to it. Should that be the case? Or should that be shared?
If you can live with that, then that's for you.
Okay.
I'll put it like that.
Okay.
Right? I'm not going to say that it should or should not be, but if you can live with that, then that's for you. If not, then you got to talk about how this other person can become more involved in this process. Right?
And again, communication. And the second one, she said, if you agree with my LeBron James contract for marriage.
Nah, bro. I can't in all good faith agree with that, man. Because I feel like if we're going to do that in marriage, that should have already shown signs in the dating process. And if you can't already figure it out in the dating process, you haven't done a good job of dating. You shouldn't even be considering the marriage. I feel like, those first 3 months, that you do that contract for 3 months. I get to know you. You crack plenty jokes. You're still pretty. All right, well, let's assess this again. Let's try to do a 6-month contract. Well, what are the requirements for the 6-month contract? Are we going to make it exclusive now? Let's negotiate. Right? And if you feel like you can't budge, well, the contract has to be null and void.
But do you admit that people evolve over time?
Yes.
People change. People take on new hobbies, new habits, new viewpoints, new perspectives. What if all was good through the dating process, marriage, all of that, but then, some things happen in life to where your perspective change, you grow, and you start to grow in a direction that the person isn't willing to travel with you on?
If you can't embrace the change of the person, it means that you only loved the snapshot of their life at that particular moment. We have to make sure we understand the true concept of love, which is loving who you are as an individual. Loving the fact that you're going to grow. Loving the fact that you're pursuing your desires in life and you're actively trying to fulfill your purpose. Because when I love that, I love the change. I will be open to the change. But if I enslave you to, boy, you remember the good old days when you used to be like this? Well, if you last knew me 2 years ago, you don't know who I am today. But like I said again, because I hold the values to be more important than more of the materialistic things or the lighter things, I am okay with that change. As long as that change reflects your values. Right? You shouldn't ever go backwards to where you're negating your values, because to me that's bad change. And that's when you have to really start thinking about therapy or what's going on with me. What have I stop doing, or what do I need to do more of to get back on being a better version of myself?
Awesome. Well, look here. Say no more. Harrison, wrap it up with the most important things that are needed for a relationship to survive.
We got number one, purposeful communication. Because I'm not a psychic, you're not a psychic. We won't know what's going on with one another unless we are actively communicating. I don't care if you've been communicating for 15 years. Continue communicating for the 16th year, right? Number two, we have to develop right understanding. We have to make sure that we understand how this person fits into their life, how this person has been interacting with their life. Because if we can't understand that, we won't understand and appreciate what we're seeing. We won't be able to respect those differences without that right understanding. The third thing is we have to practice releasing the negative judgments of ourselves and of our spouse. We have to do that on a daily basis. There's going to be small mini infractions that we go through with the person in the relationship every day. Whether they say that word you don't like, or they cursed a lot today, or they just didn't talk to you as much as you thought they should have. Practice releasing that negativity. And if you don't do that every day by taking out the trash, it's going to build up, it's going to stink, and your relationship is going to end up in a funk. And lastly, the fourth point, accept responsibility.
Right? Say that again.
You accept responsibility for where you are and for where this relationship is. Because even if you don't see it, you had some hand in some dealings in the problems or the blessings.
Right. It's never just the other person's fault.
No way.
Never.
Never.
Harrison, listen, I appreciate it. You're a very busy man. I appreciate you taking the time to come and speak to us small folks and have this conversation, because I think it's much needed. Too many people are going through dysfunction, rough times in the relationships.
You said it, bro.
And the family is struggling. The family structure is struggling, and it's just showing it rearing its ugly head in our society with all of the dysfunction, all of the crime, all of the negativity that we're seeing. We have to begin to rebuild our family structure.
Yes.
And we have to do that through our core, the nucleus of the family, the relationship between, I mean, spouses. I ain't gonna say, man or woman, because, we have different kinds of relationships.
Right.
I just want healthy relationships. Regardless of, the genders or whatever it may be. We just want healthy relationships. And Harrison has given some good advice. I would love to go into some more, but, our time is short. And I think we covered quite a bit. We could always do another show. We could get into some more stuff like how to effectively communicate, because that's important. We could discuss. We could break it down. Yeah, we could talk about some ways to do it, some advice on how. Because some people they mean well, but they just don't know how.
Just ain't there.
Just don't know how.
You got to seek that knowledge.
Yeah, so we could probably go into how to effectively communicate on another show. And Gail, I appreciate your insight.
Gail.
People loving you in the comments. They hate me as usual, but they love you. Love your contribution. I always appreciate your contributions to the show.
For sure.
Always do a great job. And people just work on it. Just communicate, man. Just stick it out and recognize when it ain't working. Don't try to hold on to it. If it ain't working and you can't do the things this person requires,
let
it go.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go. You understand? So once again, thank you, Harrison. Thank you, Gail. Thank you, people, for tuning in.
Thank you all.
We couldn't get through the comments, but I tell you all call. You all ain't call. That's your fault. The man was here for free. Now go pay your big money when you have your issues in your relationship, because you had a chance to get your question in and you ain't take it. So that's on you. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the comments. Thank you, people. Until next time. Peace.